Hello, it's Jack Tutor here of Attention Magazine. Welcome to Crucial Listening, the podcast where I speak with musicians and sound artists about 3 albums that are important to them. My guests this time are Camila Fuchs, a band based in Lisbon, Portugal, comprised of Camila de Laborde and Daniel Hermann-Collini. We spoke about 5 important records. What I really like about this one is that they kind of shared these important albums. So I think they picked their own individual releases, but they were both able to talk freely and enthusiastically about all of these albums. It made for a really, really excitable, enjoyable, deep conversation. I had a great time in their company. And their new record, Kids Talk Sun, is out now on Felter. And as the title suggests, Camila Fuchs work prominently with electronics, recurrence, vocal melodies. This particular record has a very playful feel to it, like peering back into memories of childhood, the oversaturated colours, the distortion, the over-optimism of nostalgia. But also as well, it does have that darkness around the edges, which also perforates nostalgic harkbacks to childhood memories, that complexity that comes with looking back at pleasant memories of childhood from the emotional complications of adulthood. Just a really awesome record, and it just gets better with every spin. And they recorded the record actually with Pete Kember of Spacemen 3 and Sonic Boom. We talk a bit about Pete's involvement both in this record and also his contribution to one of their important record picks as well. And so you can check out Camila Fuchs' music on Bandcamp. They're on Facebook and Twitter as well. And as always, head over to attentionmagazine.co.uk/crucial listening for more information on their picks and links to their music as well. All right, here it is. Here's the conversation. Thank you very much, as always, for subscribing. This is Camila Fuchs on Crucial Listening.
Anytime you
Hello Camila, hello Daniel, welcome to Crucial Listening.
Hey, hello.
Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast. You have brought some important records for us to talk about. Before we do, I wanted to ask about your new album, Kids Talk Sun, which is due out in November on Felter. And my first question is about where you recorded this album. The location itself sounds like it was pretty special, quite notable. So could you tell me about where you recorded the record?
Yeah, we moved, we were living in Lisbon, and we started the record there, but the space we were working on was really small. It was an attic and we couldn't really stand up, and 2 of us was like tight. So when we when it came about that we were working with Pete Kember on this record, he lives out here in Sintra, and we really wanted to make it, for it to be possible and make it happen. So we kind of were like, okay, we're gonna find a way, we're gonna move somewhere. And we were looking for a bigger space, and then him and his wife suggested to us, why don't you come out here in the countryside where we live? I mean, you'll get so much more space for the same price, and we'll be close to each other, which would make the collaboration easier instead of commuting all the time. And we did that. We found the place we're living in. It's like it was the only place to rent, and it's out here in the countryside, walking distance from the sea. And it's it's a really, really magical and mystical place, because it's Sintra is kind of like this natural reserve, but it was built by humans completely. You wouldn't believe it, but it used to be just like desertic almost, and now it's just so full of life and trees, and there's like a microclimate because of that, because it's like right next to the sea, so the weather is always turning every day, and it's a lot of fog but a lot of sunshine as well. It's very, very, it's quite mystical and unique.
Yeah. And did that have any shaping on the record? Like, I don't know how much of the records you had kind of ready to roll by the time you got there, but did the location impress upon the album in any way?
Definitely. I mean, I think one of the main parts was that we were a lot out in the nature, and that was kind of something that really fed into the album and into the record. I think mainly observation of nature and just being out, like parts, we were recording the record and we went out at least once or twice a day and just spent time in the nature, went for walks. And
yeah, it's like every single moment that we weren't working on the record, we were here in this like place and spending our time differently, way more relaxed, way more contemplative, doing a lot of gardening. It kind of really, really dreamy. I mean, it's been a really nice experience, and definitely all these times where we weren't working in the record, I think were equally important as when we were working on the record. Like, it really totally fed into each other.
Yeah. Because I mean, my association often with the record creation process is quite an insular experience, right? You're kind of bound to your studio space. It's kind of like, you get the reward of natural light maybe at the end, but
absolutely.
Otherwise it can be really quite a stodgy experience. So I mean,
definitely.
I imagine that was quite pleasant, huh?
Yeah.
We had to unlearn, I mean, this idea of being in the studio 24/7, which we did when we recorded our last record.
Yeah, we were even sleeping in the studio. It got to that point.
And I think Pete played a big role in that, just to show us that actually the biggest part of the inspiration comes from not being in the studio and dedicating your time to other things and just contemplating, and then going back with a fresh energy into the studio and taking everything that you absorb from the outside world into the creative process.
And not so many moments of doubt somehow, because say when we were working with Pete, we would work on a track for us like an X amount of time, never too much, and then be like, okay, now let's just stop, and we would have been more of the vibe of just continuing and over and over and over, and he would kind of just like consciously stop, give our ears a break, get distracted, and whenever we would come back, we would know if we were going in the right direction or not. And so it was like this really pretty freeing experience of making a record, to be honest. Like, there wasn't that much space for worrying or double thinking or questioning. It was just that's why I think it has kind of like a kid's energy, or there were a lot of like contemplative, like just drawing back to a certain nature of just doing, right? And very spontaneous, and
because it's a record that when I listen, I think it would be so easy to take any one of these tracks, maybe any of them, and be like, this could be a 12-minute opus in which you're coming at the central refrain from multiple different angles and basically just picking it apart for that entire duration, and yet you seem to have this incredible, wonderful knack for keeping things within a durational realm, which allows it to be kind of playful and buoyant and vibrant.
Right.
throughout its entire thing, and to also have some semblance of pop about it, I guess, within its brevity. So was that an important part of it for you, having those breaks and the ability to pull away and keep it fresh? Again, was that something that maybe allowed it to be quite concise as well and quite targeted?
Maybe like unconsciously, but consciously we always, I mean, and that's also, I think a lot of the records we picked, or some of them have that, which is just this this change between energies from song to song, and different worlds, and it kind of being a trajectory that really changes from song to song, but at the same time it's still a body of work, and it guides you. And I like trying to make a record where every moment is kind of, it's giving you something. It's very important for me that there's no moments of like that it's always present, basically. Something is present, and it's always there, and we're not letting anything down,
right?
Somehow.
Yeah,
I don't know how to explain it.
I mean, one other question I had before we move on to the records was about, I mean, you've mentioned the presence of Pete there and his usefulness in kind of banishing you from the studio when it was probably right to do so. I mean, what else? What are some other prominent things that Pete brought to the process for you?
A lot, I think. I mean, it's the whole process is so hard to describe in words, and to describe, I mean, the whole experience was in itself just very dreamy and very much like completely new experience. A lot was actually happening outside of the recordings and outside of being in the studio. I mean, it was really about spending time together and exchanging and just meeting him as a person, and he was just incredibly giving. I mean, one story is, for example, that we would wake up and every morning we would find like a plant on our doorstep.
Or like a track in our phones to listen to or something.
So, I mean, he was
like
just
small,
very, very giving throughout the whole process, and very attentive, but then at the same time we also had our space to create. I mean, it was never like...
There was also, but they were quite like, in a more like tangible way in the actual recording. It was like 100% different to the way we would work, and some of the things were, for example, when we showed him demos, me and Daniel had chosen like our top 10, and that's how we did our previous album. You know, we had the songs, and then we were like, these are the songs of the album, and we're gonna finish them. And then we showed Pete our demos, and then he was just like, yeah, cool, show me more. And we were like, more? Show me more. And then and it didn't stop. I think we heard like 30 demos and chose 20, and he was just like, yeah, we're gonna work like on these 20 simultaneously.
I think that
and
was
we were
one
like,
of the
whoa. All right.
one of the great things, because I think within the creative process you many times create things that you're sometimes yourself not very content with. I don't know why that happens, but sometimes you just pick certain songs you wouldn't choose over others, but then, you know, eventually, like, if you actually go and say, let's give it a try with the song and maybe see what comes out.
Right.
I think a lot of the tracks, I mean, quite a few tracks that we wouldn't have initially chosen made it into the album.
Wow.
Even on the last step, I mean, we mixed 2 extra songs, and now it's just like, you know what, we don't have to mix them. I'm pretty sure, because time was short, and I was just like, we don't have to mix them. You know, they're probably not gonna go into the record. And Pete was just like, no, we've gone this far. We're gonna finish it. And the last mixing session just made Sandstorm just made the song completely change, and we were like, okay, it's going into the album. So that was quite like an interesting way of working, and just showing us to kind of trust and just wait for the songs to
form and shape.
Yeah, but you never really know. You never really know, really.
Well, let's go to your important records now. So one question I like to ask is how you thought about the term important, whether or not there was a particular understanding of that term that allowed you to come up with the list that you did. So, Camila, was there a way you thought about that term to come up with your list?
Yes. I mean, for Lind, for example, of Jenny, she's a really good friend of mine, and I love to bits. So that's something really important for me. But also, her album is just so personal. It's kind of, I mean, a lot of music is personal, but she really does actually open her space, her world, her relationships, and it's there in the record. And I think that's, I don't know, it felt like something really important for me. I think it's something to feel grateful about somehow, like when somebody opens up
and shares. It's nearly like a diary.
Yeah, totally.
Record. I mean, I think some of the records we picked are like personal, connections in terms of like the experience we had when we discovered this album or the record, and then some other records, I think, for example, the Flying Lizards album has something which is, it's the narrative of the record and the storytelling. And then another thing that I really love about the records that we picked, that they have some kind of, Jenny's album, for example, opens up into her personal world, but then some other albums, like the album of Layla, it's very much like it opens a parallel world. It's nearly like a synesthesia where you hear the record and you find yourself in a different world, pretty much. I mean, it's kind of like a very abstract universe that you can dive into. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'll let you pick which one you want to talk about first. Which one shall we discuss?
Do you want to go?
We can, since we've mentioned Jenny's, we can speak a little bit more about Jenny's.
Yeah.
It's it's kind of like, first of all, it's a really, really cute and sweet and beautiful record. I mean, it kind of has this magical thing of the first record somebody ever does. It's there's very little judgment, I think she was just doing her thing and loving mixing really weird electronics and toys with field recordings, stuff that she like recorded with her phone, conversations with friends, trajectories or walks that she would do with her voice. Then she has like, it's kind of like a record where you don't, I think if you just shut your eyes, you wouldn't really know when one song starts and one song finishes.
Absolutely, yeah.
They have interesting structures within the songs, and at the same time it's got a lot of field recordings where you suddenly drift, but then it's got this like really strong couple of songs where she's singing and the lyrics are just like, I mean, for an album that doesn't have that many, say, lyrics or sang songs, I think the ones she did, which is like Jordan and another one with a Norwegian name.
Yes, I know the one you mean, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the lyrics are just incredible.
Yeah, where she's talking about that dream.
I dreamt that I would die.
I dreamt that I would die. I haven't yet, but I'm about to in a day or two or three. And then it goes, it dawns on me and I realize all of the things that are gonna go on, like. And the other song that is like the opening track of the album, Jordan, the lyrics go, I thought about Jordan, I thought about you in my sleep. A hint of sadness was printed on your eyelids, so you kept your eyes wide open. Then let me see. I tried to gather it all, but the floor was getting muddy and I sank into the floor. And they're just very, they're wonderful, and her melodies are incredible as well.
To come back to that song Jordan as well, because that I think is such the way she frames that song with the various means of recording it and the kind of spaces she takes it into. It's got this wonderful sense of a song existing across many spaces and times simultaneously, right?
Yeah. I think she plays a lot with that, which is like this. You hear the song and it's like it's recorded in one place, but then she's probably somewhere else, and she was just like humming it on her phone, and suddenly it goes into that, and it's this completely blend of mediums that she uses.
It really is like a diary, very much like a capture, like.
There's actually a part where you can hear Daniel and me speaking over the phone, and I never realized that she was recording.
What?
But I was, and I heard the record, and then like at some point I just hear my voice, and I'm like, what?
Wow.
Which is, and I'm just speaking on the phone with Daniel, just like, I'm just with Jenny making music.
No way.
And I think that's a really sweet thing. I mean, I kind of realized that when we made for our album recently, like our first music video, and I did a collage of a lot of videos I had in my phone, and there's a lot of friends that appear, a lot of familiar places, and I realized how that's such a nice way to connect, with music or with videos, where somehow you're like pulling other people in, pulling other relationships. And although it might be a bit more special for me because it's like, oh my god, I'm on the record.
Right, yeah.
but besides that, I think it also does give it gives a different energy to the listener. Just like this is somebody she knows. What was the context? What's the relationship? Yeah, I think that's I think it does something to people when they hear something and it's the person is really opening up their own space in life.
I think one thing that really makes me think about that on this album is the fact that with Jordan, she's just spontaneously kind of starts playing it in amongst a group full of people, and I kind of almost get like an air of anxiety at that point, like hearing someone bearing like quite a private song, which, only really exists in Jenny at that point because she's only just recording it, for the record right then. So it's this bearing of this song that she's kind of carrying with her. It's cool to hear it framed in that way, and obviously people at the end chatting about, giving a strange feedback on how the song could be improved, and it's a lovely way to frame the opener of the record there.
It's a very emotional, even if it has like field recordings and a lot like sounds of birds, and then the electronics of it, that's another side, which are just so awesome. Even if it has like this quite like cheery thing of conversation and field recordings and bird sounds, it also goes quite like
deep.
Quite deep and haunting at times and super emotional. It's kind of it does have this like piercing moments where you're like, wow. It's just such a beautiful record.
And you played with her, you may have played with her before this point, but last year in Oslo, right?
Yeah.
How was that?
It was amazing. She kind of invited us and organized
a little tour for us.
Yeah,
Oh,
a
cool.
little tour for us there.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was just like, come and play, and then she found us other gigs in
Bergen.
Yeah, it's a very special friendship. I mean, I remember, for example, also I once went to visit her, and we went to visit her sister, and her sister lived like on a, almost a like top floor, and you had to go up a lot of stairs, and it's something that you hear on the record as well. So I was just like, oh my god, I remember the sound of these stairs and like going all the way up, and you can hear it.
Wow.
And you can hear her sister opening the door and just being like, hello, and and it's just so nice to be able to track all these little
memories.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a diary. It totally is like a diary.
It's a very interesting concept of just an album. I mean, it's I couldn't tell any other record that has similar processes. I mean,
I don't know.
maybe there are, but I'm just,
I think she put everything she likes and everything that called her into it, you know? She loves field recordings. She loves digging for records of bird sounds. Somehow she's really into that, and there's a lot of that. And she loves mixing mediums, so like if she's performing live, she would have, you know, she would go from like acoustic guitar to playing some cassettes and some radio, and then she has her electronic machines and toys, like some things that she builds. And I think she put it everything that called her and everything that she enjoyed into Lint.
So you kept your eyes wide open. You kept your eyes wide open. Yeah, you keep your eyes wide open. Pulled out a thorn from underneath your fingernail.
Yeah, well, let's go to your second record now. Again, I'll let you choose whichever one feels appropriate here. If you give me the name of it and then a little bit about why it's important to you as well.
One on one, you choose them.
yeah. I mean, I think that we can talk about the Flying Lizards and about Layla's album, because I feel that there are some interesting similarities. And I read this quote about the Flying Lizards that there was like, a quote where they said that the album is interesting and the individual songs as well, but it just doesn't gel as an album.
Yes.
And for me, I mean, the way how the album has this arch, the same way as also Layla builds most of her albums, I just find it so interesting, because you kind of really dive into a whole movie in a way where you have all these different trajectories and stories coming around the corner, and for me the Like Weather album by Layla really feels, I mean, it does feel like weather. It really has it has all these different temperatures and climates, and it really goes up and down, and it takes you, I mean, I don't know if you heard it on headphones, but I would recommend anyone who hears it to listen to it on headphones, because it really sucks you in, the whole record. And
It's very
I was
unexpected.
I was having difficulties to know which album of hers to choose, because I mean, I love all her records, and I think that she has been very, very how can I say,
Inspiring and influential.
yeah,
right?
inspiring and influential, not only for us, but I think in general for a lot of genres. And the thing is that I don't think that she falls into any kind of genre, and I always felt that her music was very much somehow out of time and timeless, in a way where you can sometimes, you know, say, okay, this goes in this direction or in another direction, but still, I mean, she always manages to break all the boundaries of what you would expect, or what you would expect of an album also. There's a funny story that with our very first album, that we released in 2016, we had this one song which cut abruptly, which we had during a recording session.
Yeah, it was an accident.
It was an accident, and basically, like, we were running out of time in the studio, and the engineer was just like, well, I mean,
it basically bounced, and it just
it
stopped without the ending, and we had not even like a couple of minutes more to bounce the track again. So so it was just like, well, this is how it's going in the record, and we were like, okay.
And there is the same in A7 on the record, which is Unlike Weather. I mean, there is also one song which just, I mean, you wouldn't expect it to just cut abruptly, and it's kind of like, I mean, the album has a lot of different emotions that you can kind of like dive into, but I mean, there is some sense of humor, for example, when that song just cuts abruptly and you're just like, what was that? Right. What happened right now?
You don't know, I mean, who knows if it, like, I mean, sometimes mistakes become something that
exactly
that you keep because it makes it unique. So
and I think that Layla has this amazing way of working with her mixing desk where, I mean, I think it's intentional, and I mean, she knows what she's doing, but she loves, personally, I feel like she loves looking for, you know, like the kind of dots in between and like the little mistakes that you can find that she then pulls out and makes it something that becomes audible and that is actually something you start really enjoying. And then the other thing is what I mentioned in the beginning. I mean, Layla's album, the reason why I picked it is because it really has something with synesthesia that you really, I don't know, I mean, I hear there's this record and it really opens up a very fairy tale-y world somehow. I can really dive into a different world, into a different universe that is, you know, unlike anything that you would see in real life, which is kind of really beautiful.
yeah, she's not scared of kind of like pulling things together and at the same time going very far and going, you know, sometimes, I mean, she has some songs that are just so beautifully like cinematic and kind of like epic, and it's just like this like completely open, and then she goes into very noisy, distorted moments, and it's kind of, yeah, I think it's an interesting sentimentality. Can you say sentimentality?
Yeah.
Guess, yeah. It's like it's really emotional, but the emotions always have different energies, you know. It's not just like, it's not just black or white. It's kind of, she covers the whole range, because that's what it really is like somehow. It's never,
yeah, it's very surrealist. I mean, the whole album, or like all her works, I always find them very surrealistic and
yeah, and they're gutsy and unique and and very feminine as well.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to what you said at the beginning, Daniel, about the fact that, you know, there was that review that was like, this is an album that doesn't gel together as a whole record. I mean, so I listened to
this. That was the Flying Lizards.
That was for Flying Lizards, yeah.
Right,
yeah,
sorry.
No,
for this album, actually, it was the opposite, where people wrote, it's crazy eclectic, and exactly because of that, they love it.
So that was going to be my point. It would seem ridiculous to throw this accusation at this record, and it's curious, isn't it, when someone...
No way.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt like there's a lot of disparate spaces going on this album, where you had some instruments that were evoking one acoustic space and then others within the same stereo field, seeming like they belonged in like a strange elsewhere as well, but kind of rubbing up together. I'd never heard this record. It's really, really striking record. It came out on...
you should listen on Reflex. And
Affix.
You should hear Blood Looms and Blooms also, which is even more surreal, and you dive even more into a very abstract world. But yeah, I mean, when I discovered this record, that was...
She has like her own universe that she creates, but also, I mean, she has some songs that are really like, I think every song that has vocals are, yeah, they've got like a kind of like a, I don't want to say poppy side to it, but like it's certainly it's very
Tangible.
it's very tangible and very real, you know. And then her instrumental tracks are just like they just throw you somewhere else. But I think all her records, I mean, everything she does, it's super inspiring, and I don't think there's anything like it, really.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't, no. It's just Layla.
And do you remember how you discovered it?
It was through like a professor we had in uni. He kind of like just played it to us.
He played one track of one of her most recent.
But that was of her most recent albums. I mean, that was from the UN. I mean, all her albums are very different one to another. And her most recent album is a collaboration between Mount Sims and her. And then on Blood Looms and Blooms, she has collaborations with forgot the name, the singer from the Specials.
Right.
Then Martina Topley-Bird. And so like she has, I don't know, she loves collaborating with people, and she has a lot of really interesting
vocalists
she collaborates with, and yeah, so I kind of like, instead of discovering her first album in the first place, I heard her very last album, and then gradually went back in time and heard like Weather, which is her very first record.
And I think she's gonna repress it. Apparently.
Awesome.
She's been sharing some posts that it probably comes back. So it's super exciting.
That's great.
Yeah.
One thing that surprised me is I think I've seen her live without knowing it. I saw Björk at La Zenith in Paris. I think she supported on that date. Have you
she was
seen her live?
Yes, a couple of times. She was in Björk's touring band for a long time, and I think she was also really influential in like what Björk did, I feel, listening to Björk's records. But yeah, we've seen her twice. There was once a gig in London in a church, and the promoter, I mean, they always changed the name of the festival.
RPM.
It was 23 RPM, then 24 RPM, then 25 RPM.
That's why, I mean, yeah.
There was an amazing festival. I think Graham Massey from State 808 was playing, and then, I mean, a lot of older Warp artists were playing. It was really, really great. And then
I remember of that because it was a DJ set, but for me, I think also if you're going to her SoundClouds, her DJ sets are not the usual DJ sets.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of like, it's Layla, and then there's other songs involved, but she uses a lot of effects. And I remember when I saw it was a DJ set, and I was just like, I was ready to go home. Like, I was like, I don't want anything else to like take away what I feel right now. I just want to leave and stay with this, because it was just such a powerful performance, and it was a DJ set. So yeah, I think she had a lot of effects. I think she was playing, I don't know how many devices she had to reproduce music for that one. She's strong with the machines.
Nice.
She really knows. It's true.
You mentioned this in connection with the Flying Lizards record, so Tell me a bit more about why that one appears in this list.
This one, okay, so this is like a recent discovery.
Pete showed it to us.
Pete plays it quite a bit in his house, and we just started playing it as well. And I think there's not a single time that I hear it that I don't say like, this is a great record. And it's so surprising that it didn't. Yeah, well, like we were just checking, and people really don't feel it's a strong album, which I find really surprising. But yeah, it's kind of like the reason why I chose it is because I think it's a really good record that has kind of the potential to be something that goes, yeah, that you can hear yourself and you can dive into it, and it goes quite actually deep. But then on the other hand, it can be like, it's amazing to hear with friends. It's got like this really like uplifting and groovy and fun sides. And then I love the feminine energy that it has, especially like in some tracks like
Hands to Take.
Hands to Take, or yeah, I mean, Hands to Take is probably like one of my favorite tracks ever.
Wow.
And yeah, I really do love it, and I love the lyrics, and I think it's got this line where it's just like she just sings full volume, like, what are you waiting for, you know? And I love it that it speaks. I love songs that kind of like speak to the listener directly and kind of encourages them, you know, that it really is, it pulls you up and you're like, yeah, what am I waiting for? You know, and
Good question. Yeah.
You really it really pulls you up, and it's a trippy record as well. I mean, it has, Daniel was saying, because I didn't know, and we were just checking what fourth wall means.
Yes.
And it's so interesting, because I think that's how the record feels somehow when you listen to it. And
right.
It made sense that that's the name. Because the fourth wall is like this...
It's a conceptual barrier between the audience and the listeners. So like the audience and the performers. So the audience can look inside, but the performer can't look outside.
Yes, exactly.
So they're really like in their, as if they're like in their own world, and I feel you feel that in the record, like with all the sounds and vocal delivery, like you really feel as if they were in a room doing their thing. And they're really not there. There is at no point like a thought of anyone perceiving it somehow. Like there's a lot of like live elements. I don't know, I just feel I could imagine them in a room doing it, you know, and trying things out.
It's interesting as well, you say that there's moments where it turns and faces you though as well, right? Which is that's a kind of curious addition to that, because I guess also as well, we only really talk about the fourth wall when there's an intention to break it. Otherwise you kind of exist within that conceptual realm. Sort of to talk about it is in essence to break it as well.
That's very interesting, you're right. Because it has like these instrumental tracks that are super abstract and trippy, and then it comes back with something that is, as I said, something that you can just be listening to it with friends, and it's kind of like uplifting, and it's speaking, it has some phrases that are very piercing and speaking directly to you, so it does have this like very interesting on and off from track to track, but it doesn't feel abrupt, you know, it still flows really nicely.
I don't feel I got time to properly ingest the full spectrum of what this one was saying, because as you say, you had some tracks that feel pretty straight up, and then there's one quite early on which is like just 80 seconds of, I think, like looped voice, but this really
new voice before Hands to Take.
Right. it's such a, and I had to kind of check that nothing had switched over to a different record on my phone or something like that. But it's a really nice, but you know, I can see from what you're saying that there is there's a coherence in terms of how they're approaching sound and how that can fit in with songs that are definitely more targeted, right?
Yeah, we had this with a friend when he once told us this really amazing sentence. When he was talking about us making a record, and he comes from a film background, and he just told us this phrase where he said, you have to think as if you were doing a movie, and you have to look at the whole record as the movie, and you have to think of all the trajectories and ups and downs you kind of would perceive in a movie. So that was for me something which I felt was really inspiring, that he kind of compared music albums to movies. And Flying Lizards album totally has that.
Yeah,
it's a very vivid movie, a very vivid, a lot of different things happening.
Yeah.
In that album.
And an amazing array of guests, right? You've got Michael Nyman on here, Robert Fripp, because quite an eclectic array of people all appearing as well.
Yeah, I think the Flying Lizards always, was mainly David Cunningham, and then each album kind of had different people. Because I was curious about the vocalist, because I love some of these tracks so much, and it's not. They have different They have different different vocalists. 99% sure. You just made me doubt. But I think so.
Let's pick another important record. Let me know which one you want to talk about.
Well, movies, since you mentioned movies.
Yeah. The KLF.
Yeah, nice segue. So why did this one make the list?
I think that Jimmy Cauty is just a really great artist. I would call him an artist. He's so multidisciplinary in everything he does, and I picked The White Room just because I found it awesome that they did this whole movie, which kind of never existed yet. But I sent you a link with the bootleg of the movie, and nobody really knows if it's the actual movie or not. But outside of this record, which I think is amazing, somehow all their works connect. And if you look at what Jimmy Cauty is doing now, for example, he did this Tower Block 1 project, which is a miniature tower block where people can rent apartments, and he put them up for really expensive to kind of be active about rent prices and just the housing crisis in general. So, and then you look back at the old videos and you see that all these tower blocks appeared 20 or 30 years ago in the movies that he did and the music videos he did. And the same also with in the White Room album there's one song called Justified and Ancient, which is just recently they started doing the mummification project. Which is basically you can buy a brick and put your ashes inside of the brick, and they're planning to build a pyramid called...
With everyone's bricks.
Basically they're planning to build a pyramid out of all the ashes of people that buy, these bricks were basically... it's just somehow the whole career of the KLF, it's kind of it seems that everything is really connected, and he again created, this really abstract world which he kind of lives in, and he puts things into real life. I mean, he kind of like created the music videos and you watch the music videos, but now you can, go to an exhibition and see like Tower Block 1, which is, like it appeared 30 years ago and in one of the music videos. So it seems that he's like a very, just very complete artist in so many ways, that he really connects the dots
and solid, right? Like he was like always very loyal to their beliefs and political views, and and at the same time making like dance music, which is awesome. It's just like such a spin.
And then, I mean, another funny story about this record is, I mean, they basically made the album and they wanted to soundtrack the movie, which they did. We basically see them driving in, I think it's in Andalusia in Spain. It's kind of like a road movie.
Yeah.
And Jimmy and Billy, they bought this car, which is an old Ford police wagon, which you would normally see in, like 70s. Yeah, just
you were driving
American
around in a police car.
movies.
Awesome.
And there's this video by the Time Lords, which was the project before the KLF started, where they sampled Doctor Who, and you see this robot running around in the music video, or kind of like driving around, and they're driving around with this car, and apparently from the money they made from that song, they kind of like tried to make the White Room, the movie, but they never finished because they ran out of fundings.
Yeah, they spent, from what I read, like a lot of money in a very short period of time, right? And then try to release a single to raise capital again, which didn't take off.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to describe it. I just find it fascinating. Maybe that's the right word.
Yeah.
Really fascinating what they did.
The stories and the ideas they had, and
I picked the White Room because I just felt it's their strongest record. Although, I mean, the Chill Out, I think it's called Chill Out album, which came before, is also great.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with the KLF, it seems. So I've not dived in, but I'm aware the BBC did a sort of dramatization of them. I think it's called How to Burn £1 Million, about them doing that. But like reading about, I pulled up a couple of articles about them, and they were just dogged with like legal action.
Yeah.
Money woes. So much drama, it seems to stick to them like a magnet. I'm really fascinated to dive a bit more in.
Political. I mean, didn't they? At least Jimmy just said like, stop doing music until there's world peace.
Yeah, they pulled all the records. I mean, you can't find. I mean, they pulled all the records from the label and said we won't repress any of the records until there's world peace.
We won't do any music, and it's true. They have. I mean, it's.
What I find so inspiring about them is that they somehow managed to really scale things to a. I mean, they just scaled things up to like some crazy dimensions. And at the same time, I mean, all their ideas are kind of like, I mean, if you would hear it before they did this idea, you would just be like, fuck, this is like some crazy idea you're having.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm only in, this is the only record that I've listened to of theirs, but I like the fact that you've got, track, is it called What Time Is Love? Which I understand is about people on the dance floor kind of identifying when their ecstasy high is going to kick in. But I suppose it kind of like all links together, right? You've got that the kind of real rabid optimism of the dance floor, where it's just like anything is possible. So the sort of world encompassing scale fits, even if it also fits inside a nightclub as well.
Yeah.
So they're really serious, but at the same time they're very fun.
to react. Enough is enough. Let me ask you a question. What time is love? What time is love? What time is love? What time is love?
Let's talk about your final important record.
Final.
Yes,
Basement 3.
Yeah.
big finale.
The-
So,
And the big finale is true.
yeah, in many
Spaceman
ways.
3.
So why is this one on the list?
There is actually a really crazy personal story of how we discovered Spaceman 3 and how, it all happened by coincidence how we met Pete also, and it started with me being at the independent label market in London, and we met someone who always came to see our shows and kind of really liked our music, and
Somebody we didn't know before, right? He would just kind of like pop up to the concerts
Exactly.
and then appeared at this record sale.
Mhm.
And he had the recurring record in his hands, and he was just like, "You guys have to, if you don't know this, you have to listen to it."
Whoa.
Which was like a funny coincidence that he kind of linked us up and introduced us to Spaceman 3 like that, and that then we met Pete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really loving his music, and I think this is just like, it's an amazing record. So many love songs.
Was it a record? So you were given it by this person who used to come to your shows. Was it one that resonated immediately?
Yes,
Yes.
that was our introduction pretty much, and then further on we discovered all the other Spaceman 3 records, and then went into the solo projects of Pete and Jason.
This was their last album together, right?
So the A side was written by Pete and the B side was written by Jason, and
And there's one track where they both.
wrote together, but
Yeah.
it still is a very complete record to me, even though they didn't record it together. And I really love this album. It's just such a great record.
I love the fact. So this is their final record, right? And I understand that it was kind of due to sort of the fact that the band was fracturing, that they recorded it in that way, right? Pete in the first half. It's always so fascinating, I guess, for the internal band dynamics to be played out through the sequencing of an album as well.
Absolutely.
I feel like you kind of had that with the Walker Brothers as well, when they were pulling in different directions and collaborated, but didn't really on a record, just kind of taped some EPs together.
Sometimes these frictions are what create also really great records. It's
I would have given everything, and I would give anything to see this live. It must be incredible. The instrumentation, it definitely pulls you in. You lose sense of time. Sometimes it's more like mellow and reduced, but then some other times it's just like 100% vibey and uplifting and groovy. And then at the same time, I think the lyrics are pretty special as well. They're
always pretty direct. And
I think it's a bold waves of bold, but also very soft somehow, like ways of speaking about love. And it's never cheesy. I can get quite like allergic reactions to cheesy things.
Yeah, I'm the same.
But with this, I'm just like, it's just totally like, it's more melting than anything else.
Yeah.
And do you have favorite tracks between you?
I think Big City is my favorite track. I mean, actually,
All the A side.
Yeah.
I am an A side
Team A
fan.
side.
Yeah, A or B. But Why Couldn't I See is awesome.
there is something about the minimalism and just about the very stripped down chord progressions and chord changes, and somehow the craft to build around and make a song with so little, like with just one note or two notes or a chord progression, like a very just a very simple chord progression, and it's something which is always surprises me in Pete's work. I mean, it's very much somehow a philosophy of thinking and a philosophy of.
Because I was actually listening to Big City, that it's like quite a long track, and then I was just like, is it getting more and more reduced?
Right.
Like the more I heard it, I just felt that I was just like diving in, and it felt each time more reduced, and then I was skipping back and forward, and I was just like, it's not more reduced.
Right.
I don't think it. I mean, but somehow. I mean, at least that's what I felt by skipping it. But I feel it pulls you in so much that you start hearing sounds differently. It gives you the time to kind of dive in, and it never feels too long.
No.
Which is magical. I mean, to have such long tracks, and that you could hear them for even longer.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't even. It wouldn't be a problem.
I mean, it's so astute, I think, to know when you plan to have something repeat like that it's going to provide more fruit over time rather than diminishing returns. Like, I think the ability to identify those ideas that have something within them that can flower over duration is an incredible skill. As you say, that's
magical.
First track is just goes round in a circle, right? But there's his voice during that track as well is
oh my god, yeah. We saw it. He performed it live. Now we've seen him live twice.
Wow.
And it was. I mean. Just to have someone on stage singing "Everybody I Know Can be Found Here" and I love you too, like on repeat, and you're there, and everybody's like, yeah, like everybody. It's just a really nice feeling live, because it kind of. I mean, I felt that everybody I knew could be found there somehow, just like by the energy, just such a great energy that I was just like. Yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing to sing and to see live.
One more question I have for both of you is how, when you really want to listen to one of your favourite records and, discuss listening on headphones, but if you want to really dig into a record and give it its full appraisal, is there a way that you do that? Is there a place you go? Do you have like a particular setup that you really enjoy for really digging into a record and soaking it up as much as you can?
Oh yeah. I mean, for me, it's always everyday headphones and walking.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, especially right now during quarantine, it became it became a daily thing. Like I go on a walk and I listen to a full album, and that's my favorite way of listening to it, because I'm on the move. I mean, if I want to dance, I can dance, but I'm not getting distracted by anything, and I also feel a lot of energy because I'm walking, and for me it's like it's a very sharp but relaxing way to listening to my top records.
Daniel, what about you?
I don't really have a preference. I mean, I love listening to records on like physical vinyls, just because there is something about turning around the record and just the concept of how the A and B side is split. I mean, I think there's a whole different thought process if you have an album digitally and you hear it on headphones, and there's not this moment of turning the record around. Which is why personally I really don't like records or albums which have two vinyls just for the sake of, keeping the quality.
Turning it around.
But if an album is on one record, I really love this idea of having one side and then going to the second side. But then also, I mean, it depends what kind of music you're listening to. I really love listening to music on headphones, just simply because it immerses you and yeah, I mean, with some records it's really like some transcendental experience.
Great. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much to the both of you.
Thank you so much.
This has been great.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
And I hope these records are nice discoveries.
Absolutely.
For you and other people.
I've had a great few days digging into these, and definitely going to spend more time with them. I think the Spaceman 3-1 in particular. So thanks for that. So if people want to check out your new album, Kids Talk Song, where's the best place for them to go to do that?
On Bandcamp.
Yeah, at the moment Bandcamp.
Cool.
And it will, it's the best spot because it's a bit delayed on the physical because of COVID. It's been a bit so in a way right now Bandcamp is it's more, it will be more realistic than going to a shop, unfortunately, for a little while.
Yes. Yeah. Fair. Great.
The other thing is that there will be 3 stores that are going to have exclusive prints, like very limited exclusive prints of the artwork.
Artworks.
Huh.
Which could be...
Yeah.
Are you divulging where they're going to be, or is it down to people to find them?
Top secret.
I don't know if it's available. See. Piccadilly Records, Norman, Boomkat, and I think Bleep.
Nice.
Yeah, that's if you want like an extra special artwork.
Who doesn't? Great. Well, thank you once again for your time. To everyone listening, we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Yeah, thank
Bye.
you. Ciao.
Bye bye.